Good morning. I would like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Lotzenheiser, may I have roll call, please?
Sure, President Wade. Today, guys, I'm going to do a roll call just to make sure our mics are working. So I'll just call each person individually, and if you'll respond so we can make sure your mic is working, that would be great. So Governing Board President Wade.
Here.
Vice President Jarman.
Here.
Okay. Board Member Van Hook.
Here.
Board Member Schultz.
Here.
Okay, so that showed President Wade, all four members are present and accounted for. And I appreciate all of you coming to the meeting last minute at 9:30 on a Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lotzenheiser. I motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have no idea who was that you, Sarah? That was first before Anna?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to give it to Sarah Jarman for the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. This moves us to the action item, discussion and possible action to approve the intergovernmental agreements between Higley Unified School District and East Valley Institute of Technology. Do I have any questions or comments from the board before I motion?
I do have several questions. I'd like to know if we have an idea of the financial impact of this agreement compared to our 2027 budget. And I don't see Sharon on the call, so I'm not sure if you can answer that. David?
Yeah, actually, we do have a comparison between, not necessarily to the budget, but between what the proposals were, and that's why I had Mr. Pearson on it. And I know from where we are budgeting that the overall savings to us, or increase of if we would have accepted the original IGA, is about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, about $550,000 more than the original IGA, but it's going to be very, very similar to what we had budgeted. Mr. Pearson, jump in if I'm reading my notes correctly.
No, David, you're correct there. From the original proposal last May from EBIT of a 70-30 split, and us handling transportation to this year, CTE is going to lose a little bit of money, but the district overall is going to be much better off than we were prior to the negotiations.
And how different is this compared to the initial IGA that EVIT had proposed?
So
yeah, I'll let Craig answer, but there's some significant differences. Yes.
Are we talking just financially right now, Board Member Van Hook?
Yes, and just the percentage. Initially, I believe it was, they offered 70% to
right.
What we're currently.
So they offered 70%, and we would continue all of the services that we had continued in the past. So which also included transportation. The new IGA, we agreed to a 76%, but EVIT is picking up transportation. And so they're handling all transportation, which is about a $200,000 savings to our district per year.
I think what's important here, though, we had asked for 87%. And so then when we look at the combined percentages and transportation, that it comes out to very similarly what we would have looked at. Not exactly 87, it might be a little bit down to 85, but almost the exact same of what we had originally asked for, that transportation, and then picking up the transportation. That we were providing that, and not through our 596 accounts prior.
Great. And then how do we ensure that all of our eligible satellite programs that we properly document all of that they're doing well in order to receive the full funding based on the agreement?
So just please understand that we will receive the full funding. Part of the agreement, the quality metrics are not in a way that they can penalize anything that we do to take money away from us. And we thought that was a very important thing that we negotiated with them, That's why originally when they said, hey, we'll fund you up to 70%, because they wanted to include quality metrics that they had not defined for us, and they were different than what the State Department requires. And so the quality metrics are not a part, they are separate from this. And so the agreement, this is a 1-year agreement, and the agreement is that they will fund it for us. Mr.
Yeah,
Pearson, do you have
so this
anything
is
that you would
just
add?
sorry, this is just the transportation. I guess this question is more for the second one. Sorry.
No, so, and I'll let you help clarify. What did come out of this process is that we've separated into 2 different IGAs. We have a central campus IGA, and we have a satellite programming IGA, and we think it's important to split the 2 of those into 2 different pieces to allow negotiations onto the different parts of what's happening. They are interconnected, so that if one of them fails, the other one can be revoked as well. But I think that's where we go from there. Mr. Pearson, if you'd like to add anything.
Yeah, so our central campus IGA has the transportation agreement in it and also the familiarization plan that both of those things were in the satellite IGAs in the past. And we just felt that separating those out made a clearer delineation between what was a central campus operation and what was a satellite operation. The quality metrics are in the and the financial provisions for us are in the satellite IGA. And so it spells out very clearly that it's going to be a 76-24 split on the funding for the apportionment from the students. And then for this 1-year IGA, there will be no programs that are going to be closed during the school year. There will be no programs affected.
Got it. And is it okay if I ask my questions for both IGAs, or should I wait until the next one? Carrie?
There's only one action item, Ms. Van Hook, so both of them are part of this same
Are part
action
of
item.
one action. Okay, perfect. So with the metrics that they are proposing, I mean, you said that it doesn't impact our funding, that the funding will happen, but how do we plan to address, let's say there's concerns about one of our programs, how do we address, do we have plans in place to address those quickly to prevent any programs being negatively impacted?
I don't know about the negatively impacted part, because again, the funding part is not to it. But we always have had plans in place to address programs to help support them to grow and meet the needs of our students. And we're very proud, and we can hold up our record in terms of how we support our kids and how our programs perform compared to any other district, including EVIT, and we do an exceptional job. It is our job, and it's really Mr. Pearson and his department to making sure that we continue to keep the high quality things that we have in our satellite programs for our students. Remember, our satellite programs serve the majority of our students. They are choosing to do career and technical education on the campus. And so that's why we felt it's really important for us to maintain the financial fiscal responsibility and availability of what we needed through this process. You know, this has been an 18 months in the work to get us to this point. And, you know, it's unfortunate we had to get there, because really we're getting in IGA, we've worked through some things that would have been very similar that could have been accepted back 18 months ago. And so I think when we look at this and we look at the quality of programs, we will continue to make sure that we are following the metrics that the state gives us, as well as working with EVIT as we continue to move forward. And I'm glad that the funding is not done with the quality indicators.
Perfect. And then as far as the agreements are concerned, can we clarify like what decisions under the agreement requires governing board approval and which are administrative responsibilities?
So again, as the superintendent, you have delegated authority of the day-to-day operations, which includes negotiating contracts. And so any part of the negotiation process is the responsibility of myself and those people who I have let work with me, as Mr. Pearson has delegated that authority to. And so the oversight would then be the acceptance of the whole IGA, and that's where we bring it back to the governing board for the accepting of the IGA after I have negotiated it, or the district has negotiated it.
Great. And then, sorry.
Ms. Van Hook, can I just clarify, I looked at the board's prior actions or the motions on this matter, and I made the recommendation that the IGA come back to the governing board. All IGAs have to get approved by your governing board, and then I have to sign off that it's in proper form. So I've reviewed both IGAs and they are in proper form. So that's why both of the IGAs are before you today to approve.
Perfect, thank you. And then since this is a one-year agreement, do we know when negotiations will begin for next year, just to prevent this from happening to all of our families that were so concerned?
That is a great question, Board Member Van Hook. And if it started tomorrow, I'd be okay with that, to honestly, if it's going to take a while. But I do know that typically negotiations would start when we come back in January. However, I think this is going to be a continual dialogue as we move forward. I know from a district's perspective and the 8 districts that we are working with, that we would like to get it started again, because ultimately the goal is not to have one-year IGAs. The goal is to provide that security and have a multiple-year option that both parties agree with. We want to be a really good partner with EVIT, and we want EVIT to be a really good partner with us. I do think there's going to be some trust building that goes through because of some public statements that have been said that honestly I don't think are 100% accurate in what they're saying and the spin. And so I think that we're going to have to work through those processes together. And it's my hope that as a group and a collective of districts that we can work together with EVIT to have something ironed out so that when we bring it back to you in next June, perhaps, that we have something ready to go for multiple years, because I do agree, I don't want to have this one-year cycle going. I don't think it benefits anybody.
Right, and I think it was on both sides, and we do need to build a stronger relationship with EVIT and be able to function collaboratively versus through litigation, because that doesn't help anybody. So I would like to have our district be able to build that relationship again with them. I mean, this is, again, it's not just a year. We're going to be working together for a very long time to benefit our students with career technical education. So it's important to have that relationship built. And then one final question, did transportation start today?
Yes, transportation started today. And, if we could have had this meeting at 6:30 in the morning, we would have done it before the first pickup. But at 9:30 here at 9:42, the next round of pickup is going to be at 10 o'clock. And so yes, we're having our kids get on the buses. And remember now with EVIT assuming the responsibility for that, if there are questions or errors or things, we're going to guide them to EVIT so that they can answer that solutions. I know the majority of kids got on the bus, but as it is with many first days, there were some hiccups that we're going to continue to support our kids so they can get there when they need to.
Perfect.
President
Yeah, I
Wade.
did. Oh,
Mr.
sorry. Go ahead.
I thought you were done, sorry.
It's okay.
Mr. Lotzenheiser, I know that parents were complaining last week that EVIT said the buses were full and that there was no more transportation. Have they since changed that this morning?
I don't have an answer on that. I just know that
Okay.
throughout the weekend, I was getting updated lists and sharing them with our schools, including yesterday afternoon. So I don't know if they were continuing to add. I had at one point heard through a parent that said, hey, because I missed some deadline that happened in June, I wasn't going to be allowed to get on
Right.
the bus. I don't know how that happened. And honestly, this is part of the idea that with EVIT, assuming it, that's the conversations that they need to have with EVIT. And that's where we direct them back to in order to get that solution. And, I'm hopeful that it'll be all smooth and can be really, really a smooth operation for our students. Probably takes a few weeks of work or a few days of working out the kinks, but hopefully it'll be smoother soon.
Okay, so we'll know by the end of the day. I'm sure they'll still call the district though with their issues rather than call EVIT, so we can find out.
And I think when they call the district, we can record that, but we at the same time, we're going to say, hey, here's who you call.
Right.
Well, contact EVIT. And I have my principals tracking. I know there was one person that was denied getting on the bus earlier at Williams Field, and they were sending a second round of buses, and it'd take a little longer, but the second van hadn't showed up yet. So we're just tracking that. By this
Okay.
time, it probably has already showed up. We'll track it and continue to support
Okay,
however we can to help clarify some issues. But we do want to, put it back to EVIT for those responses.
perfect. Thank you. I have one other, well, a question or a statement, but we talked about working together with EVIT. Their press release that they put over the weekend wasn't really, let's work together. It was more, hear how great we are and what we did. Is there talks with them to hopefully improve that communication that we send out in press releases?
It's hard to control what somebody else
Sure.
says, especially, like I said, they have a fantastic spin person who has
I know.
tried to put it and make it look like that this has been the district's responsibility, where in reality, if we would have accepted the agreement 18 months ago, the district would still be provided transportation right now, and it would have been about the equal to where we're at. And so I don't know how we control that. I think what's important is that we remain consistent on providing the best that we can for our families and keep the focus on what's happening within the classroom, and the public opinion campaign or the social media messaging and stuff like that is not really what they do, is not really under our purview. But I was very surprised at what happened, considering we had worked through this every day. We were having meetings about it this week, and then it kind of tried to throw it back on us. I didn't appreciate that.
Agreed. And I know we can't control their narrative, but hopefully moving forward, they will be willing to put out a statement that accurately describes what's happening.
I also wish to
President-
express, go ahead, Mr. Harmon, go ahead.
Okay, Superintendent Lotzenheiser, I just wanted to reiterate, just kind of, I appreciate you looking forward to, since this is 1 year, that we are very proactive and pushing forward. I really felt so, just seeing kind of all the families that were affected by kind of like the stress of this, if we can be a lot more proactive. I mean, I feel like we overall have been proactive. So if we can just continue that theme and get this going, since this is 1 year. And just to kind of remind our watchers, in the year 23, the pass through on 2AI, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Pearson, but in the year of 23, it was at 85% pass through. Then 24 was 86, and then 25 was 87. I just want the community to see how and then the original, the first one that was presented to us dropped down to 70. So I just want them to really see how drastic that was, so that they can understand that this is an agreement. And so we need to be fair and do our due diligence, prioritizing the students at our district, ultimately having that funding follow for the efforts that we do on our end. So I'm grateful for what you guys did. I'm so happy with the other, the second agreement too, how that could potentially, so well done. I think that's all my thoughts for now. Oh, also, I'm very appreciative of the timeline on the payments to make sure that those payments are done timely towards the district as that pass through. All right, thanks again, you guys.
I just have one final question. Can you explain how the transportation differs for our students that have IEPs? I've seen some communication online that students with IEPs were initially told that they would have transportation no matter what, but I'd just like to understand the whole process there.
Absolutely. With students on an IEP, an individual education plan, within the goals and parameters of that plan, if it's written in that transportation to EVIT or access to EVIT is part of the plan, then we would be responsible for moving it. So we had contacted those ones individually, those parents individually, and had a plan in place in case we could not get an IGA board, when we spoke through the special ed process, that we would be able to support them regardless of what happens. And that's all based upon what their IEP is written and how that worked. And so our SPED department and transportation had worked on that in case we did not have an IGA put forward.
Got it. So if a student is on an IEP, but it's not one of their accommodations, then they wouldn't have received transportation.
Yeah, if it's not, yeah, part of that transition plan, as we looked at, to my knowledge, no, they would not have.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I motion, I do want to express some gratitude to both Mr. Lotzenheiser and Mr. Pearson in that, as we have mentioned, the IGA that was presented to us last summer, not to mention just the process with which EVIT did that, didn't really convey that they were willing to talk or negotiate, because they spent months just kind of ignoring it and then waiting until the very end of the year before they dropped this pretty big change. I'm grateful that we went through this process. I recognize and understand that there was a lot of frustration, especially confusion, in terms of families and what they felt and the concern that they felt for that. But ultimately, we ended up doing what we needed to at least preserve our programs for the next year. I hope going further, it doesn't feel good seeing EVIT's press release this weekend in terms of further negotiations and how we continue to do that. But I'm grateful for those individuals and the other districts that we worked with that prioritized students on all of our campuses and what it is that they need. So I'm grateful for that. All right. I motion to approve the intergovernmental agreements between Higley Unified School District and East Valley Institute of Technology.
Second.
Second.
Okay, that'd be Ms. Van Hook seconding. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 4-0. I motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
I'm gonna give that to Ms. Van Hook again, because I saw that your thing unmuted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oops. Aye.
Aye, motion carries 4-0. Meeting adjourned. Have a great day, everybody. Happy birthday, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you.